Hey there, everybody. I'm here on behalf of MTG Madness and Absolute MTG on YouTube, and today we are going through for some Born of the Gods and Theros drafting. So, one Born of the Gods, two Theros, and this is a draft Swiss. And much like last time, whenever we did a serious draft, we opened up a ridiculous bomb just to start it off, and it seems like we're going to be pretty much doing that here again. So, we have Brimaz here. So Brimaz is definitely one of the best cards for limited right now, in Born of the Gods and in Born of the Gods Theros combined as well, I would suppose. But he is really nuts. The card is really, really good. So that is something that I would just pick without even a doubt in my mind. So at least our first pick was kind of, I don't know, kind of uneventful. To say the least, in terms of talking about the rest of the things that were in the pack. I don't even want to talk about things just because I don't want to make Brimaz feel bad. So there are a couple of different directions we can go with White in Born of the Gods and Theros. One of the archetypes that I enjoy drafting the most is probably Green White Heroic, and something that would support that would be a Crone Skyguard. Of course, there's Bolt of Keranos, which is extremely good as well. Tromokratis is as big as bombs can get in terms of big high-end bomb drops, and he is actually extremely annoying to have to deal with. You have to have a Divine Verdict, or otherwise there's not a whole lot that actually deals with Tromokratis in this format. So Tromokratis he's a bruiser. However, there are some things that I can see right off the bat that I wouldn't mind drafting. So Red-White Haste is kind of a thing, so Impetuous Sun Chasers, Loyal Pegasus, and cards like that work really well together. The removal with Bolt of Keranos is really good as well. However, I'm going to take a Crone Skyguard and make it so that there's less white going around, and we'll see where we can go from here. So there's a Way to the Underworld open, there's an Eye Gouge, Scourge of Skull of Ale, Citizen Starbreaker, and Snake of the Golden Grove in green. So there's not really a abundance of any certain color. Like white, we only have one card left in here. I mean, Way to the Underworld is pretty good removal. I mean, there's some stuff that Way to the Underworld doesn't deal with, and it's kind of awkward. But Way to the Underworld is still very good removal nonetheless. I think the card that I really like the most out of this pack is probably Fearsome Temper, especially if we decide to go through that red-white haste type of deal here. Fearsome Temper is really good. You can manipulate blockers with it. Cyclops have One-Eyed Pass is probably like a later filler card that I would draft and pick up, but I definitely think the most appealing thing to me right now is probably this Fearsome Temper. The Scourge, I'm not really impressed with it, I would have to say. And then out of this pack, this pack's actually pretty nuts. So, Eater of Hope is here, which I'm surprised that this is still going around. I'm surprised somebody didn't pick this up. It gives a pretty surefire sign that black is open. However, I'm not really as comfortable drafting black-white. I don't think it's really a strong color option in terms of the draft experience that I've had with Theros. So, I mean, you can get some things going, but I don't think there's any real concrete synergy going on between white and black. You do have the removal in black. You do have some solid creatures in white. However, we do have removal here in Excoriate, so that's always awesome. So that's a pretty good drop in white to have, and it just further solidifies our choice in white here. So I think that's what we're going to pick up. Removal is always pretty good. Earlier on, we could have taken that Bolt of Keranos. However, I think that I want to pick up cards like a Crone Skyguard a little bit earlier. It kind of guides you in a direction and an archetype that you want to be playing in, and this is definitely still a format that is going to reward force drafting. So Godfavor General, probably one of the more underwhelming uncommons, I would probably have to say, in terms of inspired mechanics. Whenever he becomes untapped, you can pay 3 and you make 2 1/1s, which that's alright. Plea for Guidance, which is double Idyllic Tutor, so it's good. You get to search up for 2 enchantments, which isn't bad. Like, they could be Bestow creatures or something like that, but I think Mortals is probably the thing that we want to grab here. I mean, I don't think there's anything really worth hate drafting out of here. There's a Swordwise Centaur, Eternity Snare in blue. Nyxborn Triton's a pretty solid filler card for blue as well. Hold at Bay is nothing that we need to pick up earlier on. It's a card that usually wheels as it is. So it seems like red isn't really as open here. So what we're going to do is, why don't we draft Nyxborn Triton and see where it takes us? Maybe we'll go blue-white Flowers, or blue-white Heroic. Blue-white Heroic's a pretty big thing in Theros. And we'll see where we can go from there. So I mean, again, we have another heroic creature. This one isn't one of the better ones, I wouldn't say. I'm not really fond of Mind Reaver. I mean, he's a 2/1 creature for double blue, which sometimes may be awkward. However, the rest of this stuff in here is not really that impressive either. We can take a Faragax Giant, and we can see where that will take us. So out of the things that are here, having Marshmist Titan, Grizzly Transformation, and Servant of Tyramet means that black is probably still somewhat open, mainly just because of Servant. Servant's usually a card that's drafted somewhere in the middle of the picks that black is going to be picking up. If they get like a really strong drop, like the flying guy that we saw earlier, they would usually pick up a card like Servant for filler pretty early on. And now the rest of the things that we have here. So Necrobite, Aspect of Hydra, Sphinx's Disciple, Revoke Existence. So Revoke Existence probably seems like the best card to pick right here. We do have two hate draft options, and those are Necrobite or Aspect of Hydra. Necrobite's actually extremely annoying whenever you're playing against black, and Aspect of Hydra, just because I've seen Swordwise Centaurs go around, if somebody drafts a very green-heavy permanent base, they can kind of manipulate that based on what they want to... they can kind of get a better range of the +X for Aspect of Hydra. So still things going around like Claim of Erebos, which isn't really one of the better enchantments in black, but it's still another thing that leads me to believe that black isn't as strongly drafted here. Letty's Astronomer, I guess we could pick that up. Nothing here is way too convincing. And I mean, Weight of the Underworld, that shouldn't still be here. We do, however, have Nullify, but I don't know that I'm worried. I think I'm more worried about a Weight of the Underworld than I am of a Nullify, because I can probably get some solid things out onto the board earlier. Here, I don't know. We could probably take Griffin Dreamfinder or Scouring Sands. We'll take Scouring Sands, because if somebody's drafting red and they're able to hit like a bunch of my 1/1s, then it's kind of annoying. Sometimes I like to take picks and hate drafts from the position of, all right, well, if I run into the player that's playing red, like assuming there's only one person that's also playing red, but if I run into that person and they have Scouring Sands in their draft pool and they decide to put it in, then they have the option of using that against me in a card like Brymas. However, this pack is also extremely good. So Mistcutter Hydra is really good. It's a card that's really good in Constructed because of that pro blue haste and can't be countered. However, it's probably even better in Limited just because of the haste, and I don't think pro blue is as relevant, but having a Hydra that's actually fairly playable in Limited is pretty good. I mean, the Hydras are more playable. They're always more playable in Limited. You can say that for a lot of cards, but this one's definitely really good. So I think that's probably what I'm going to grab here. We may shift pace and go into Green-White Heroic from here. It really depends on what things are going to be going around, but I definitely think that Mistcutter Hydra, even if we don't go for green, is going to be a card that should be hate drafted. And from here, we have some more things. I mean, we have Lightning Strike that we can pick up. We have Fanatic of Mogus, which won't really play into any devotion that we have or anything like that. However, we can take Wingsteed Rider, which is a very good choice right now. So we'll take Wingsteed Rider. We'll assume that Mistcutter Hydra is a hate draft, if nothing else. And we'll see where we can go from there. So Battle Ice Hoplite's there, kind of like how I mentioned about Blue-White Heroic. So this guy's probably one of the best blue-white cards that you have in Blue-White Heroic, just because he's a 2/2 bear for 2 for you in Heroic, and he's another enabler. Hopeful Eidolon's here as well, so maybe we'll pick that up. Star Uncharted Warrior is another one of my favorite cards to draft in Theros. However, I'll draft a few more white things here. So white seems like it's pretty open, and black seems like it's still open. Agent of the Fates and Grey Merchant of Asphodel. If there was one card that I would expect to be gone, it would probably be Agent of the Fates, because that card is very, very nutty. Here in white, we actually have a kind of a tough decision. So we have Heliod's Emissary or Divine Verdict. Divine Verdict is amazing removal. It's probably some of the best removal that the format has at an instant speed. That doesn't have a bias for power and toughness or anything like that. But then again, Heliod's Emissary is also very good at manipulating blockers. And it's also another bestow creature. However, I'm more partial to removal in this format, so we'll pick up the removal right there. We do have Dauntless Onslaught, which is one of my favorite heroic enablers, much like Warrior's Lesson in green in Theros. But Dauntless Onslaught is pretty good as well, so we can pick that up. We can turn on 2 of our creatures to be able to trigger off heroic. Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of red or anything going around, so let's see. Mogus' Marauder, Disciple of Phenax. I just hate seeing those cards going around because there's probably going to be one person that's picking up all of these black cards and is just going to have a field day with cards like Grey Merchant and Agent of the Fates, assuming that they're not scattered around between multiple drafters. But Feral Invocation is definitely awesome. Love that card. Then we have Shredding Winds. We have Chosen by Heliod. Benthic Giant's pretty solid for blue. That card's pretty nice because of the hexproof. Fellhide, Minotaur, and Viper's Kiss are pretty subpar. Mnemonic Wall is very nice, and Wild Cerberus is kind of okay. If I had to pick up a card, I mean, it's either pick up Chosen by Heliod for a cantrip or pick up Shredding Winds. And I don't know, maybe we just take Chosen by Heliod. It's really up in the air at this point. Yeah, I think I'll take the card that cantrips for us. Then we have Hunt a Hunter, Flamespeaker Adept. So things aren't really giving us a surefire sign here. So we saw very little red earlier on, and now we are seeing 3 red cards, but it's mainly like we're only seeing 1 red card, being Flamespeaker Adept. So we'll take Flamespeaker. Battlewise Valor is here. Still more black going around. Tormented Hero is just very nutty as a 1-drop 2-power creature. We'll take Battlewise Valor. That's just kind of fine. And at a certain point in time, I think maybe after this pack, then we'll start hiding things, hiding certain colors, so we don't see everything that's going around. We don't see all the stuff that we drafted. We mainly just narrow it down so we can take a look at creatures and whatnot. Yoked Ox is probably all right. Decorated Griffin's just not really that impressive. We'll take Yoked Ox on the off chance that we need it as a blocker for early game aggro. Like maybe our opponent's capitalizing on that Tormented Hero. We can maybe side in Yoked Ox for the variability and option of being able to play it turn 1 in response to their turn 1 Tormented Hero or so. Spellheart Chimera, if that's going around, then it seems like nobody's in blue-red, so I don't have to really worry about that. We'll take the Returned here. That card's a little bit more annoying than I'd like it to be. Fate Foretold, not worried about it. Cavern Lampad is a little bit more annoying. March of the Returned, Unknown Shores, I'll pick that up. Maybe we'll go Naya. If we do decide to go Naya, then Unknown Shores is pretty alright. I mean, we do have the 2 Fearsome Temper, Faragax Giant, and Flamespeaker Adept, so we do have a little bit more red stuff going on for us than just the Feral Invocation and Mistcutter Hydra. And out of here, we do have Minotaur Skullcleaver that we can pick up if we want to go for more red. There's a Coordinated Assault and Portent of Betrayal. It's mainly just Battlewise Valor that's sticking out to me in white. However, we are kind of cut for picking up more creatures at this point, so why don't we take a Minotaur Skullcleaver here and see where we can go for it? I'm perfectly content with hate drafting a Mistcutter Hydra. The card is extremely annoying late game. It's pretty alright. You don't really have to worry about it early game unless you're playing just like mono blue, which usually isn't a common occurrence, but I don't know, we'll see. So now things are a little bit more awkward. So now that I picked up a Minotaur Skullcleaver thinking like, oh, okay, maybe we'll go for more red here. Now we're given the pack with a ton of blue, or a ton of blue, a ton of green. So this is it's interesting. So Savage Surge and Nylea's Emissary, and also Leaf Crown Dryad are all very, very good cards, and they stand out to me. So, I mean, realistically, we're not going to get all of these cards. We can maybe get 2 of them. And Ill-Tempered Cyclops isn't bad. So what we could do is we could pick up an Ill-Tempered Cyclops and try to work on our curve. Or we could pick up a card like Leaf Crown Dryad or Nylea's Emissary and capitalize on these 2 cards. But I think at this point, because we've already picked up 2 Fearsome Tempers, Skull Cleaver, and Flamespeaker Adept, and also the Faragax Giant, I don't want to belittle that card. I think that we're going to try and focus a little bit more on our red. So Titan Strength is good for our flyer guys, and also it enables Heroic very well. We have a Crone Crusader, so let's hide blue. We'll hide black as well. Maybe we'll even play Naya. I'm not afraid to play 3 colors in this format. Far from it. So that's what it's looking like for us. Nylea's Disciple, we're probably not going to play that card. Even if we drafted it, it's very unlikely that we would actually play it. We could pick up a Crone Crusader as a 1-drop for us, and we don't really have a lot of creatures in terms of like humans to play off of Cavalry Pegasus. So I think what we can pick up is probably a Crone Crusader as just a 1-drop for more of an aggressive type of start. Spear Point Oreod is probably just fine. Cutthroat Maneuvers, something I don't like to see going around, and there's a lot more green creatures going around here. But we'll go and we'll take Spear Point Oreod. It's another creature for us. From here we can take our Titan Strength. We can take Curse of the Swine still going around. We can take our Evangel. From here, we do have that Glare of Heresy, but it's narrow. It's very narrow for what it can actually deal with. We'll take Satyr Rambler because it's another creature. Twin-Headed Cerberus, Titan of... oh, wow. Two-Headed Cerberus, another Crone Crusader, or Titan. So again, we don't really have... I mean, a Crone Skyguard's a human. I mean, Eidolon's a spirit. Crone Crusader is a human. I think with this draft pool, we're trying to be a little bit more aggressive, so maybe we'll just go and pick up another 1-drop. Or, Nah, we'll actually take Titan. We'll take Titan here. We'll take Portent. Out of all these cards, probably Destructive Revelry. So we're probably a little bit more, we're a little bit more creature light than I would like to be, but I think we can still manage to do quite well. We only have 14 creatures, 13 essentially, not including Yoke Docs. But I'm pretty okay with this actually. I mean, we have a little bit of removal. We have our removal with that. Important if, well, not really removal, but I guess if you want to call manipulation removal, we can manipulate things, and if we can clash one of our opponent's creatures into another, it's kind of removal. We do have a Crone Skyguard chosen. Will that be Battle Wise Valor? Scouring Sands is probably not going to be played main board. Evangel is a pretty solid 6-drop for white, especially because we do have things that are like double cost. But red and white is a pretty good combination. In Born of the Gods, if you're doing triple Born of the Gods, which doesn't currently exist on Moto right now because of the switch from the release queues to just a regular limited queue scene. Triple Born of the Gods doesn't exist anymore, but back when it was a thing, you could draft your Impetuous Sun Chasers, your Loyal Pegasus, and multiples, and then you could play like turn 1 Loyal Pegasus, turn 2 Impetuous Sun Chaser, swing for 3, and move on from there, just absolutely smashing with that. So we can take Yoke Docs. I mean, we can take 3 Yoke Docs. Why not? I'll take the Yoke Docs challenge. How big can we get our Yoked Ox before it kills our opponent? Asphodel Wanderer, an island. Realistically, we could actually play a fourth color. It's not impossible to do. Unknown Shores gives us fixing, and then we can splash like 2 forests. But we'll see. We'll see here. So, for the actual deck building itself, we have our Crone Crusader, Titan Strength, Fearsome Tempers, Flameseeker Adept, Minotaur Skullcleaver, Spearpoint Oriod, Ill-Tempered Cyclops, Portent, Faragax Giant, Titan of Eternal Fire. Out of white, Ev, Divine Verdict, Rider, Brimaz, of course, Nuts, Dawnless Onslaught, maybe Revoke, Battleize Valor, Chosen, and Mortals, Hopeful Eidolon. That's only 13, so we're going to have to kind of adjust things so we have more creatures in here. So we do have some 1-drops, which is actually pretty good. We have the Crone Crusader and Hopeful Eidolon as 1-drops for us. Chosen by Heliod could very easily just get cut. I mean, the card's not... it's not necessary. Satyr Rambler's probably better. Satyr Rambler, I'm not really thrilled about it, but it's a card that still works. I mean, it's another trample creature. If we can put Fearsome Temper on it, I mean, that's just fine. We can manipulate blockers and then manipulate our opponent based on what toughnesses they have in terms of creatures, and move on from there. Taking Mistcutter Hydra and Feral Invocation away from green was probably just fine. However, I would have not minded seeing a little bit more green stuff, or in retrospect having drafted a little bit more green, but I'm probably still okay with this. I'm not going to second guess myself on anything. What I draft is just usually based on intuition, and I'm feeling pretty good about this actually. I'm usually pretty okay with red white, and I do very well with it. So, 23 here, 14 creatures. I'd like to jam in probably like one more creature. Unfortunately, all we have are Yoked Ox. I don't know, maybe 14 is just fine. We don't really have a way of drawing cards in red or white. However, we do have a little bit of Scry going on. We have Scry from Titan Strength, Battleize Valor, Portent? Is that all? I think that's all. So we do have a little bit of stuff that interacts with Flamespeaker Adept, which isn't bad. I like to play 16 creatures usually in limited, but I think this will manage. We'll be able to manage with this. So we have one human there, another human here. Oh, and we actually have the synergy between Cavalry Pegasus and a Crone Crusader. And unfortunately, he just makes Red Soldier creature tokens instead of like Red Soldier human creature tokens or something like that, where it would interact with Cavalry Pegasus. But I mean, if we can go turn 1 a Crone Crusader, turn 2 Cavalry Pegasus, that's just fine. A Crone Skyguard is another human, so we have 2 humans so far. Brimaz is just nuts. Flamespeaker is a human. 3, 4 Ed Angel. So 4 of them. So we do have a little bit of stuff that interacts with Titan, but Titan's just a 5/6 for 6, which is just fine. I think that it probably was the right call to take Titan over a Crone Crusader, because we may have some trouble getting into the late game if we're not as explosive in the early game as we would like to be. If we get some awkward hands, then we at least have Titan as a later drop to kind of help cushion things out. And if the board stays awkward to the point where nobody's really swinging, we at least have creatures that tap, and we can pay 1 red and start pinging our opponent. But this is probably fine. I don't think we need to play Yoked Ox unless we're playing against something that's pretty explosive with creatures that don't have flying or evasion or anything like that are swinging. But I'm okay with this. I'm definitely okay with this. So 9 and 8. And I think I agree with that. No double red at all, and double white starts with Wingsuit Rider and Brimaz and ends off with our human cleric. Yep, I'm pretty okay with that. 9-8 split. That's pretty good. 17 lands, always the kind of lucky number that you want for limited. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me here for the draft portion of this. I hope you guys can make it to rounds 1 through 3 in the draft coverage. This is Swiss, so even if we scrub rounds like 1 or 2 or even 3, it's just about being able to play through the games, play them as efficiently as possible, and learn from it. So again, I hope you guys can join me, and thank you for watching.